Focusing on are the necessary things we need to be able to actually go in and create change. And a lot of that has to do with the financial backing or the financial solidarity that you have in your life as a family, as an individual, the ability to build asset bases, and create wealth in your life. And how many of you would like to be able to create more wealth in your life? Amen. Is that something you would want in your life?
Yes.
All right. Okay, good. All right, so we're going to move on from here then. And a lot of these foundations, which some of that, if not a lot of it, you've heard before, but it doesn't bother me in the least because I'm a firm believer that if I had to look my son in the eye and tell him something once, I had to tell him 100 times. So I just approach everything as a father in my mentality, and I don't apologize to anyone for that, because I remember my oldest son, who's now 38, we joke about this a lot. Sometimes I'd be correcting him or giving him some information, and he'd just sit there like this. I'm like, are you getting this? Yeah. Are you really getting it? Yeah. So, just let me say it this way. I would tell him again. So that's like taking the trash out. I'd like you to take the trash out, please. Now, when I ask him to take the trash out, I expect him to take the trash out then. 30 minutes later, I come back and the trash still isn't out. And then it's just a little bit more firm. I would like you to take the trash out now. Okay, Dad. An hour later, when the trash isn't out, then it becomes very firm. So, like the back of my hand. Okay. Yeah. Hey, listen, I just want to encourage you on Twitter, okay? On Twitter, Patrick, no space, Ondrey. You can follow me on Twitter. You can also follow me on Twitter if you want, as Ondrey International is another one that we have. We're getting ready to pull up and create the one for the Financial Wellness Institute as well. So you can always follow us on Twitter if you want. And I encourage you to. Also, I want to encourage you, 2 different places. On Facebook. On Facebook, please, when you're pulling up Facebook, you're going to find 2 different Facebooks. You're going to find my friends page, and you're going to find my fan page. How many of you know the difference between the 2, okay? Please do not request to be my friend, because I'm going to send you a direct message back telling you that my friends page is full. So, don't even go there. You want to go to Facebook and you want to look for P.O. International, okay? Patrick Ondrey International is my fan page, or what they now call like page, okay, which is unlimited. And so I encourage you to go there and follow us over there. We also have a group called the Financial Wellness Institute. Okay? And so, I still can't spell institute. Yeah, I got to go back to school. Anyway, Financial Wellness Institute is a group that you can find there. You can request to become a member of that. I encourage you to, because that's where we're posting thoughts. We're getting ready to launch some weekly 5-minute videos that are going to go up there. In the Christian world, you would call them devotionals. We're not calling them devos, okay? We're just calling them thoughts of the week. And they're going to be more pragmatic and practical than they are spiritual necessarily. But don't think I'm not a Christian because I don't do that. I'm at a stage in my life, my friends, where I just think some things have become too hyper spiritual. I just think some people have become too spiritual for their own good. And they've not understood what it really means to be out in the real world. And to be involved in the real world. And talk real world language. And I know Pastor Kong is real good about teaching about the fact that, we want to create Christian bookstores and Christian t-shirts, and all we're doing is creating another subculture within a culture. And I'm not about that. I'm not about that at all. I want to create businesses. I encourage my children to create businesses because I believe in streams of income. Streams, plural, of income. And you know, if we're gonna do what God wants us to do, I believe we've got to have a generation. And once again, if you will read your little Generomics pamphlet, you will see in there on the front page that I make a statement that Thomas Jefferson used. Every generation needs a new revolution. Every generation needs a new revolution. Because what the previous generation did may no longer accomplish what's needed to be accomplished. It cannot any longer do what it was designed to do efficiently, like a new generation can. And, you know, I may be sharing some of this tomorrow morning, but just for all of you, I'll say it this way. If you take a look at automobiles today, and you compare them to the very first automobile, you will see that they look different and they run different. Yes or no?
Yes.
Well, what has happened over time? The function for which automobiles were designed has not changed. They were designed to take you from point A to point B. That's what they were really designed to do. However, over the years, we have had many generations, say generations, of automobiles. You can have the same automobile enter a new generation. If you take a look at Mercedes, for example, they have a very similar look. But over the years, they've changed from a box shape to a more flowing shape. What happened was they moved from one generation of Mercedes to another generation of Mercedes. The same thing is true for airplanes. Today we have a full double-decker. Who would have ever thought the A380 would ever be an airplane that could get off the ground? But they do it. We never thought the 747 would get off the ground. And so now they're looking at more hypersonic or supersonic speeds for the airplane. What's happening? Generations cannot continue with what the old generation had for very long before they need a revolution. And let me tell you something, the church needs a revolution. We need a revolution in our thinking. We need a revolution in our seeing. We need a revolution in our actions. Across the board, we need this. Now, up in this part of the world, you would be familiar with ice, would you not? Ice? Yeah, okay. So, if you take a look at ice skating, you get another great example. In the early days of competitive ice skating, there were no jumps. If you take a look at the black and white films of Sonia Henning, one of the first competitive ice skaters, okay, in the Olympics, there's no jumping. There's no getting off the ground and spinning. There's just flowing.
Oh, figure skating?
Yeah, figure skating, ice skating, figure skating. And they're just beautiful, and they're turning like this and skating backwards, but there's no up and two spins in the air. None of that. But one day, we reached a point. Anybody think they know what I'm going to say? One day, somebody got to a point and they said to themselves, we are all doing the same thing. And that individual said, now this is what a revolutionary is made of. That individual said to themselves, I no longer want to keep doing the same thing everybody else is doing. I no longer want to keep doing the same thing I've always been doing. Because if we do, we're just going to have the same look every time there's competition out there. And so that individual said, you know what? I'm going to come off the ice a little bit. And so back still in the black and white days of TV, I mean, there was a little boom, jump. Oh, wow. I mean, the commentators are like, wow, did you see that? We heard that they might do something like that, but they really did it. Oh my gosh, I wonder what kind of score they're going to get. And unfortunately, as happens all the time, everybody started doing a little jump off the ice. And after a few years, what do we have? If you are going to win the competition, you will not win it unless you are at least doing the same jump off the ice that everybody else is doing. It's just a question of how well you do it versus somebody else, right?
Yeah.
And so finally, this same individual says, you know what? I don't want to just jump a little bit off the ice. Everybody's jumping a little bit off the ice. How many of you can relate to what I'm talking about? Yeah. Society falls into a trap of complacency where they just want things to be in their comfort zone. But you cannot progress by living in your comfort zone. Communities can't change if we continue to live in the comfort zone of what the community is used to. Hello? And so in ice skating and figure skating, somebody reached a point where they say, I don't want to just jump off the ice. I want to jump off the ice and do a spin at the exact same time. And guess what? Somebody did it. There was an individual who did it for the very first time, and the crowd went crazy. But after a few years, somebody said, we're not satisfied with that because everybody is doing one spin. And then somebody said, I'm going to do 2 spins. Huh? And they did. And then eventually somebody said, hey, we're all doing 2 spins. So I'm going to do 3 spins. And there was somebody originally where no one else had ever done 3 spins in competition that came out and did 3 spins in competition and won the competition. And today, they're even doing quadruples. They're doing 4 spins where they're coming up off the ice and spinning 4 times in the air. Now, do you know how they do that? Do you know how you move from being able to just get off the ice a little bit to being able to get off the ice and do 4 spins? You have to work. Your muscles must become stronger. Because it's going to take more power to get up off the ground. And so if you are going to rise, if you are going to progress, if we are going to impact, okay, we've got to be able to get higher and farther. Because if you're going to do 4 spins versus 2 spins, you've got to be able to stay in the air for a longer period of time. In order to do that, you've got to be able to get up and stay in the air. So you've got to be able to not only go higher, but you've also got to be able to go further. So there's this whole development of the body and the muscles and the strategy and how your bones work and how you land that has to all come into play to be able to accomplish that and win the victory. Well, if we're going to win this battle for society, we've got to do the same thing. We've got to become revolutionaries. We've got to be able to push ourselves further and higher than we ever have before. And so we're dedicating ourselves to this whole revolutionary project. Everybody get this? Huh? All right. Where we can help you on a weekly basis in our seminars, in our books, and our products, and make this an effective change in your life. Not just a seminar where you got some good information. I would be very disappointed if a year from now I came back and all you ever got was some information. Information is great, but you have to be able to process information in a way that you can use the information effectively in your life. Now, when I ended, I said, there's a realm of blessing that you enter into. Now, that realm of blessing means this. In the community's peace is your peace, but it also means this. In their welfare is your welfare. In their prosperity is your prosperity. In their health is your health. So in other words, what you are going out there to make happen in society, God says, I'm going to make it happen in your life as well. So we have got to choose, as I was making reference to last night, and as I like to see in poker, we've got to go all in. All in. No chips in my pocket, no chips in the chair. They're all on the table, and I'm putting all my chips into the pot. Into the pot. What pot? The pot of God's kingdom, of His work that needs to be done on planet Earth. Now look, today we are witnessing what has been described as a financial earthquake across the earth. I mean, they are saying we are in the midst of a financial earthquake today. So not too long ago, if something was described as toxic, we always thought that it referred to our health, our physical health. But today, that same term is being used as it refers to the finances of individuals, and cities, and nations. So over the last few years, it seems that health scares are now being outweighed by wealth scares. People today, so many of them believe they will never have an opportunity to become wealthy individuals. They believe that the premise, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, is their lot in life. And I want to say to you today, if you are going down that path, you need to get off that path right now. If you are in the circle of that circumstance, you need to get out of that circle right now. Because God is for you, He's not against you. And when God is for you, nothing is impossible to those who believe. And so, the economic situation today is toxic. It's a situation where these toxins have got to be removed out of our life because they're poisonous and they're affecting our economy as a nation. Because they're affecting our economy as a nation, they affect cities. If they're affecting cities, they're affecting businesses, they're affecting families, and ultimately they're affecting individuals like you and I all over the planet. And so we've got to move beyond what the world says is going to take place and begin to understand that in the midst of all of that, we can prosper. In the midst of all of that, if you were to look at Isaac's life, you would see the exact same picture. They were in a drought. They were in a bad situation, and Isaac was told by God, stay right there. Where was Isaac? Did anybody know where Isaac was? He was in a land he didn't want to be in either. He wasn't. And as a matter of fact, if you read the story, he was considering leaving town. He was going to cut and run. He was getting out of Dodge, as we say, okay? And he says, I don't like what's going on around here, and there's got to be greener grass somewhere else. And God shows up on the scene, and you know what He tells him? Just like in Jeremiah 29, He says, no, stay right here. Stay right here. Because right here, in this place, you're going to see that I'm going to do something for you. I'm going to supernaturally empower you. I'm going to supernaturally impact your life. I'm going to take you to a level that you have never experienced in your life. Now, because we have financial toxicity in the world, that means that we are facing what I call some, and I'll abbreviate the word financial, but we're facing financial dysfunctions. Financial dysfunctions, and most individuals are being bombarded by financial dysfunction at every level of their life. They're trying to invest, the investment doesn't go right. They're trying to buy groceries, the price of groceries is going up. They're trying to buy gasoline, the price of gasoline is going up. It's fluctuating all over the place. I mean, there is just this financial toxicity that's taking place in every facet of what we try and deal with. So you can deal, let me say this, you can deal with the numbers all you want. And God spoke to my heart and He said to me, He said, Patrick, for many, many years, you have helped people understand what needs to happen with their finances, financially, both from a spiritual and a practical point of view. He said, and you really help them with their numbers. With their numbers. Say numbers. Numbers. In other words, how much they make, how much they spend. Amen? Amen. But then He said, but you can deal with the numbers all you want, and it won't help anybody. It might help them for a short period of time, but if you don't deal with the root issue, if you don't deal with the root issues, the numbers don't mean anything. They will only mean something for a very short period of time because the root issue is still there and can still rise up and overtake that individual's life again at any given time. because the root issue has not been yanked out or removed. That constraint has not been removed from their life. So we've got to move beyond numbers in order to reach true economic freedom in our life. Because real freedom is not just making more than I spend. True economic freedom is making more than you spend, but understanding the concepts of what needs to happen when you are making more than you spend. What am I doing with all of this? How can I be well? How can my family be well? Where do my investments need to go? You can reach financial wellness only by facing the issues that you face every day. Issues like impulse spending. I know none of you have ever bought on anything on impulse. Never. I mean, you've never driven down the road and say, I'm going to stop and get a cup of coffee. Never. Okay? How about the continual use of credit? That is just an issue. Okay? Also, for example, the lack of planning. We don't teach planning in church enough. As a matter of fact, I would go so far as to say our Bible colleges and our Bible universities of the past, I feel that we have done a great disservice to many missionaries, pastors, and religious leaders by not dealing with some more practical issues in those environments that should have been dealt with in their lives. Because when they come out, they have no concept of how to deal with some of these things in their life. And so if we're going to enter true economic freedom, we've got to be able to face the issues. If we don't, it's like the man who was driving the red Ferrari and the little boy who was riding a little moped. How many of you know what a moped is? A scooter. Well, this young man pulls up to a red light on his scooter and next to a red Ferrari. And the man in the red Ferrari sees the young boy looking at his car. So he rolls down the window and he says, "You like this car?" And the young man says, "Yeah, boy, I love it, sir." And he says, "If you work hard, you'll grow up one day and you can own a car just like this." He says, "You think so?" He says, "Oh, I know so." He says, "Here, stick your head in here and just take a look around." So the young man leans over and he's looking around in there. All of a sudden, the light turns yellow. He can tell it's going to turn. And the man says, "Young man, I'm going to have to leave here." Okay? He says, "But, just work hard. You'll have one of these." Up goes the window, and the light turns green, and he puts the pedal to the metal, and he zooms off. Ferrari goes fast, right? So he's going down the road about 80 miles an hour, and he sees in his rearview mirror a little black speck. And it's getting larger and larger and larger, and he sees it's the young man on the moped coming up behind him faster than he's driving. He can't believe it. And the young man on the moped goes right by him. The man couldn't believe it. He says, "Wow, what kind of engine did he have?" So he's still driving down the road in his Ferrari, and all of a sudden he looks out his front windshield, and he sees a little black speck, and it's coming back towards him. And it's getting larger and larger, and it's the young man on the moped again, going so fast he goes whoa, the other way. I mean, the man couldn't believe what he was seeing, and he pulls over on the side of the road, stops his car, and he's thinking, "I cannot believe what I just saw." And he glances in his rearview mirror, and sure enough, here's that little black speck. And it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's the young man on the moped coming up behind him again. This time he slams into the back of the red Ferrari. Bam! I mean, the young man went flying over the front. Moped parts are flying everywhere. Young boy is laying out on the ground. Oh, the man jumps out of his Ferrari and he runs over to the young man. He says, kid, he says, "Are you all right?" He says, "I'll call an ambulance." And the young man says, No, I'll be all right. I'll be all right. He says, "Are you sure?" He says, "Yes, sir." He says, "Just help me up." And so the man helps him up, and he says, "Now, you sure you're all right, right?" And the young man says, "Yeah, I'm okay." And he says, "You sure?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "Can I ask you a question?" The young man says, "Sure." He says, "Son," he says, "what kind of engine did you have in that moped?" He said, "Engine in my moped?" He said, "Yeah." He says, "You're going so fast." He said, "Oh, no. He says, "You've got it all wrong." He said, "Really?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "Remember back at the red light?" The man said, "Yes." He said, I got my suspenders stuck in the window when you rolled up the window. Suspenders. There's a moral to every story. And it has great application here. Things are not always what they appear to be. A lot of people try to live their financial lives at a level that paints a picture that seems really well, when behind the scenes, things aren't going as well as they should. Or they're dealing with issues internally in their family that are affecting their ability to prosper and go forward. So now, if we are going to impact society at a social level, I said to you, we've also got to have the financial means to get in there and make some effective changes. Because we deal in a financial society. Sure, there are some countries where there are chickens that are still traded and things like that. I mean, it's true. You see it all the time. We're driving down the road one day in, where were we? I think it was Surabaya, actually. And there's this little scooter, and I mean, there's this guy riding on the scooter, and there must have been like, he must have like 30 chickens. I'm not kidding you. More than that. He just had tons of chickens hanging off the scooter. And Rhonda had never seen anything like this in her life. Now, I've been in countries where they run up and try and sell you toilet paper in the window and all kinds of. I mean, she's looking at this, she's going, Patrick, look, he's got chickens all over. I said, yeah. But we really, realistically, for the greater part, we deal in a worldwide economic system that deals with dollars and cents, or money, as we know it. So, how many of you in this room would like to have more money, well, listen, this year than you did last year? Anybody? Anybody bold enough to say, yeah, Pastor Patrick, that's me, huh? Well, guess what? It's going to be October pretty soon, so you better get busy, because you've only got 3 months left to do it, okay? But let's just expand that to say, how many of you would like to have more money in your future than you've had up until this point in time? Yes. To make more money annually, etc., okay? Well, if you're going to do that, may I suggest to you that you enter into the principle that the young man in Matthew chapter 25 entered into. And the principle that he entered into was the entrepreneurial spirit. The spirit of the entrepreneur. Now, before you make a decision right this minute that I am going to be an entrepreneur who owns his own business, I want to make something very clear. The entrepreneurial spirit is not a spirit that can only be in you if you are a business owner. This is something that a lot of people overlook. The entrepreneurial spirit is a spirit that is in you whether you own a business or whether you're working for somebody else. It's in you. And if you don't feel that you have that spirit, maybe in a little while, or maybe we'll come back again and do this, I have an entrepreneurial success test that you can take. We're going to provide those as a bonus session in our Financial Wellness Institutes. And it's a series of questions. I believe it's 25 or 26 questions that you answer, and then we score them to see whether or not you have an entrepreneurial aptitude to be a successful business owner. And I will say this. I believe every one of you in here should have your own business. I really do. I really do. Now, I don't think everybody could have their own business, because then we'd all be the plumber. And we wouldn't have anybody to, or we'd all be the bricklayer and nobody mixing the cement that goes between the bricks. Okay. How many of you understand what I'm saying? There's a right balance in there where we find peace where God has planted us. And for many years I didn't own a business, and I worked in major corporate America for many, many years. I started my business career while I was still at San Diego State with Sears. Maybe you know the name Sears, amen? And I rose very fast in their organization and stayed with them for 8 years. And from there, I became the chief financial officer of a transportation company. And in the course of 4 years, we went from about $3 million to $20 million in income. Very fast growth. And from there, I had the luxury and the benefit and the privilege of becoming the International Director of Finance and Administration for L'Oreal here in the United States. And each of those moves, I was working for someone else. I was working for someone else. But I maintained an entrepreneurial spirit. Because when you understand the word entrepreneur, it comes from two French words. And I'm not going to try to pronounce them because I only speak English and I can't speak anything else, okay? That's the truth. But I wrote that down somewhere and I thought I brought it with me. Maybe I didn't. But one of the words is entreprendre and the other one I can't even pronounce. But the first one means adventurous, bold, willing to take risks. The second word, entreprendre, means undertake. So if you were going to give a definition to the word entrepreneur, you could say, this is my definition of an entrepreneur, and there's many out there, but my definition is this: a person who undertakes a bold adventure requiring hard work. Because the first French word not only means adventure and bold, it also means hard work. So when you put all of that together with the second word, undertake, it means to step into a place where you begin an adventure that is actually a bold adventure that's going to require hard work. That bold adventure can take on many forms. If you're working for someone else, it might be a new project that they want to launch. Maybe it's a new division that they want to begin, and they're asking you to start it up out on the West Coast or in Chicago or somewhere else. How many of you can see that the entrepreneurial spirit can come into play even when you're working for another company or another individual? Even within the same division, an entrepreneurial spirit says, I'm a hard worker. I'm going to stay until the job's done. That's what the entrepreneurial spirit is about. And the servant in Matthew chapter 25, starting down around verse 14, that's exactly what he entered into. He entered into this entrepreneurial spirit, as I call it. And he had 5 talents of money that the owner, see, he worked for someone. See the picture? But even though he was working for someone, that master, he left for a period of time, and he left the 5 talents in the control, in the management of this individual. So now this individual is faced with 3 things that he must be diligent about. The first one is